Today I want to talk about one bad habit that if you don't correct will affect your results in the gym and potentially your health. Now we all want to hit new numbers when it comes to weightlifting, whether it's load, kilos, pounds or reps. Now the problem is, as we're starting to go through a set, you'll find that reps 1 to 5 will be relatively easy, and then as you get prolonged throughout that set, you continue throughout the set, it gets gradually harder. Now there's a couple of reasons for this. One, the muscle is actually fatiguing. And secondly, we're running out of fuel source in the form of oxygen. Have you ever been in the gym, lost your strength or ability to push through a set very quickly? Or have you ever caused yourself a pain, a headache, felt dizzy? If so, you need to watch the rest of this video. The foundational technique for this is you should be breathing out on the exertion and in on the relaxation or the easier parts of the lift. This is easy to do as a beginner. It's easy to do when you're not training intensely. But as your intensity increases, this becomes a much harder task to do. If you think about any set that you've done, let's take squats. It's a huge compound lift. As you progress through it, it's basically cardio. Your heart rate is going to elevate massively, which then means your breathing is going to also come up relatively to your heart rate. But we have to keep this in mind. As you're going down, that's the relaxation part of the lift. Anybody that's squatted knows that it's not relaxing, but as you're coming down, it's not the main exertion point. So you're going to breathe in as you're coming down, or breathe in at the top. And then as you're pressing up, you're going into the exertion phase. Naturally, you're going to exert. But as we go through the set, this is where the risk factors come in. You're going to increase your heart rate, increase your breathing rate, and it's going to be harder to maintain that breathing pattern, that breathing technique. Now, of course, we all know that during the inhalation, that's when we're taking the oxygen in. But if we go back to the analogy of when someone is squatting and you start to get breathless, you're going to naturally exhale more than you inhale. So what I would recommend is make sure that you're consciously focusing on the inhalation. So as you get to the top of the squat, make sure you have a big and purposeful breath in. So that as you're coming down to the bottom and you're really struggling, you will default to holding your breath. You will default to then exhaling as you're going through the hardest point of the lift. The inhalation is where we're getting the oxygen into the body. It's then circulated round the body via the circulatory system, and then the oxygen is shuttled to the muscle to then be used in the energy system to help make sure we can continue lifting, continue moving. Most people will think that they're breathing correctly, and of course you will breathe out. If we use a bench press as an example, you will breathe out as you're pushing up. But what happens is as the set progresses and as you get more fatigued, as your heart rate and breathing rate increases, you'll find that the ratio of the inhalation to exhalation starts to shift. You'll be expelling out all of the oxygen in your lungs as you're pushing because the exertion is so high. You're working to the max of your ability. And then you'll tend to find that it's a small inhalation as you're coming in, like a quick breath in, and then a massive exhalation again. So what actually happens is you're hyperventilating in this situation. So it's important to remember, as you're really fatiguing and you're forcing out all of that oxygen from your lungs, take stock, take a little breath, take a moment and inhale. Try and match that so that we balance that ratio so that you can continue through the set with as much control as possible. Of course, at the end of your set, at the end of the third set of 10 reps, you're not going to keep this at a level that you are going to be able to maintain your breathing, because that's just not how the body works. But if we can maintain the conscious thought of your breathing for as long as possible and control it for as long as possible, that's where we minimize the negative impacts and maximize the positives of being able to do a little bit more, 1 more rep, 2 more reps over a few weeks of training. When the muscle doesn't have enough oxygen, that's when we're creating lactic acid and you can no longer lift that. You can't push through it. You've all experienced lactic acid burn. It's depending on which muscle you're using, it's either quite pleasurable or extremely not. For example, biceps, most people love the pump. Hamstring curls, terrible feeling. It feels like you're about to cramp up almost instantly when you reach failure. What we want to do is control this as much as possible. So if we can delay the onset of the production of lactic acid, that means that we're getting extra reps in. And this is nothing more than just your breathing technique. Now think about the power of compounding. The power of compounding over a 6, 12 month, 18 month, 5, 10 year journey. If you're managing to get an extra rep just because of your breathing, alone, how much that would then compound over the years, over strength gain, over muscle gain, over that time period. And then the second reason why we want to control your breathing is the negative effects of holding your breath for a prolonged period of time, throughout the set. Holding your breath when weightlifting can be beneficial. So powerlifters and Olympic lifters will use this, and it's called the Valsover maneuver or technique. And what that does is it enables you to increase your strength and power over a short window of time. However, when we prolong that time period, you then become at risk. The Valsover maneuver is performed by breathing in, holding your air in your lungs, and essentially using the muscles that you would use to breathe out whilst not breathing out. It sounds complex, I know, and I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it, but that's basically what you do. You breathe in, hold your breath, and perform the movement. And what this does is temporarily increases your strength and endurance, whilst also creating a little bit more stability, which is why powerlifters and Olympic lifters do it. I would only recommend doing it for lower rep sets. However, this will temporarily increase your heart rate and breathing rate as a side effect to this. So this is where it starts to become a risk, prolonging that time period, because now not only are you not getting any extra oxygen in as you're performing the extra reps, but you're now also simultaneously increasing your blood pressure and heart rate as you go throughout the set. And this is why you'll see people pass out, faint, feel lightheaded in the gym, and potentially also cause blood vessels to explode in the only way that you can explain it. And most people actually accidentally use this technique because it's a default setting for us. As we start to struggle, you will naturally, innately just hold your breath and just push with all of your might. And everybody will do this. If you look around the gym, or if you look at yourself, if you look at any videos of you training, you will have done this. As you're really struggling, you just tend to seize up and hold your breath. It will temporarily make you stronger, but as I say, prolonged usage of this will run you into issues. As I said, something that I've experienced from this is during a squat or leg press. It's happened a couple of times where I've not been using the correct breathing technique. I have had blood vessels in my head explode, pop, and it feels like the worst migraine you can possibly think of instantly. I couldn't hold any form of weights for 2 weeks. So make sure you're breathing. It's not a good thing, it's not clever, and it's painful. What happens here is if you accidentally use this Valsover maneuver for a prolonged period of time, we're increasing the blood pressure, we're increasing the heart rate, you're getting a lack of oxygen to the body and the muscles, and we're using up the resource that we need, oxygen, to help that muscle perform more efficiently for a longer period of time. So therefore we're sacrificing the reps that you might be able to do over a period of time. So in the immediate actual session, there's a detriment, and then you're missing out the compounding of extra reps by getting the breathing technique correct. So nice and simple. Remember, keep your breathing technique to breathing in on the relaxation or the easier portion of the lift, and breathing out with the natural exertion. That's it for today's video. Please like if you learned anything new, comment below your thoughts if this has ever happened to you, subscribe for more videos just like this, and remember to share it with your friends so that we can spread the knowledge and help more people out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.